Joining us now is Ursula Burns, former Xerox chairman and CEO and senior advisor at Teneo. It's great to see you again, Ursula.
Great to see you, Sarah.
How are you feeling about the outlook? We're in a strange place coming off of the violence last week, the second impeachment of President Trump, and yet at the same time, so much optimism around vaccines and growth and getting back to normal with stimulus. What does it look like to you?
I actually try to focus on the positive, and I will start there with the points that you just the 2 points that you just pointed out. Stimulus, business is still going. It's driving. It's trying to make progress. It's planning for the future. People are investing, and as soon as we get continued deployment of this vaccine, another piece of good news, we have 1, 2, 3. Better deployment of the vaccine. I think that we'll start to see some uptick in the economy on a more broad base, right? So that's very good. We also have come through a completed election. We have a couple of days when we can actually swear in a new president, but Georgia is done. We have clarity about the governing structure of the United States. Not all seats filled, but that's also very good. So I think that we started the year on a positive note, and then we got this interruption of this insurrection inside of our own country people who just do not agree with the facts. The facts of the matter are that the election has been called fair, free, balanced election, and we have had inability for people to accept the facts on the table inside at the highest level of our country and in our government. And it's actually a interesting pause, because who would have thought that this would be the biggest issue we had? Who would have thought that we would have people storming the Capitol building and that would be the news bit? On the day that happened, the news bit was that Georgia, for the first time, a black senator and a Jewish senator. That's the news bit. Democracy spoke on that day, but it got overrun in news by this, I call it oddity in America. And most of my friends overseas see it as an oddity as well, even though it is very concerning.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the view from abroad, since you had been living in London, running a foreign company. What are you hearing from your fellow business leaders there?
I think four categories, four things pretty consistently. One is horror. Like, my goodness, I just cannot believe that this is happening. It's a little bit of a stunned kind of approach in a negative side, a negative stun. It's like this is a place and this is a system that we had counted on, almost like been lulled to sleep, that this type of activity for this reason would not happen. That's one. Second is just amazement at the lack of preparedness and amazement and confusion on how could it happen? Not how could the people come to the Capitol building, but how could it have gotten that far without, one of the best armed nations in the world having some way to control it? The third is gloating a little bit. America is like the New York Yankees. They're on top of the world. You need an America so people can beat up on them. Like the Yankees, you need them so that you can beat them and people can get interested in baseball. But this is a place where people, when it happens, they take a breath and say, see, you're not as big and as good, as strong, as such a moral leader as you thought you were. Look at what's happening in your own country. And so this a little bit of gloating with the hope that we kind of get our act together real soon, because everywhere I go, I live in the UK, I spend a significant amount of time traveling around Europe. People need, hope for a strong and consistent US. They know we have things on the fringes, but one thing that we've never been able to question, at least in our lifetimes, is when someone gets elected, you put them into power, you go through a transition, and you then go on. This is, I think, people are hoping that this is just a temporary kind of that we've lost our mind for a short amount of time. That's what people are saying.
So what's your take on the reaction by social media companies? Have they gone a step too far, do you feel like? And do you think they should be taking more responsibility themselves for the state of division in America and around the rest of the world based on the way that they push news stories to their users?
Yeah, I think that, have they gone too far? Absolutely not. we don't allow people to incite violence actively. We don't want people. We don't allow you to sit in a movie theater and yell for fire or beat up all of the people who are not like you. We don't allow that kind of. We don't condone and we don't facilitate that type of disruption. And the social media platforms have to take responsibility, have to treat, it doesn't matter whether it's the president or me or Joe in the street, if they can get a strong bully pulpit and they can get a voice behind them that is contrary to order and law, they have to be stopped. So I think it's absolutely appropriate, President, whomever, that if you're using the platforms to push lies and incite violence, it is absolutely.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.